Today we're taking a look at 10 of the worst credit card mistakes that you are probably making, that I definitely make, so that we can all just better use these powerful financial tools as they are supposed to be used to hopefully reach our financial goals a little bit faster. All right, let's jump right into it. What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So, the topic of credit cards can be a little bit controversial in the personal finance space, but you all know my stance on this. I feel that these can be incredibly powerful financial tools if used properly that can help you increase your credit score and earn some insane cashback, rewards, and other benefits as well. First of all, and perhaps the largest mistake that you make early on when it comes to credit cards is waiting to get your first credit card. Look, I get it. Nowadays, there is a lot of negative connotation surrounding credit cards because a lot of individuals of my generation and older have gotten themselves into a ton of credit card debt because, again, they didn't know how to use this tool properly. And as a result, you may have been told that you should avoid credit cards at all costs and that you don't need a credit card. And yeah, that might be true. You definitely don't need a credit card. But again, if you know how to use it properly, it can help you out a lot. However, it takes time, especially when it comes to building up your credit score, and that's why it is so important to get started as soon as you can. So if you don't yet have a credit card and you've been on the fence about it or which one to get, finish watching this video so that you know how to use it properly, but then please go ahead and open up your very first credit card, whatever that may be, because the longer you push it off, the longer it is going to take you to build that high credit score and good credit history, and without that, you're going to have higher interest rates and payments, a harder time getting approved for various loans, and it can even affect your job eligibility in some situations, and even your ability to get a lease or rental unit in the future. Now that you've got a credit card, it's important that you use it properly, and that brings us to the second mistake, which again is very common, and that is carrying a balance and/or only making the minimum payment on your credit card. When I refer to carrying a balance, what I mean by that is, say your statement arrives and you owe $500 at the end of the month. Well, instead of paying that off in full, you may decide to carry over either that entire balance or part of it to the next month, and that's really how credit cards are designed and how people dig themselves into a ton of credit card debt. Because when you carry over a balance on your credit card, they are going to start charging you interest and fees, and that's in large part how credit card companies make money. So please, if you take nothing else from this video, pay off your credit cards on time, every time, in full, at the end of every single month, and do not only make the minimum payment, or even worse, make no payment, because even if they just tell you that you only owe $10 of your $1,000 balance, don't listen to them. They want you to accrue interest and fees because, again, that's how they make money in large part. On a similar note, the third mistake that I commonly see people make all the time is missing a payment, and this can have a significant negative effect on your credit score for a number of reasons and a number of years, but that's because on-time payment history is the largest factor when calculating your credit score. So if you miss a payment, then that will actually appear on your credit history for several years, and as a result, that will drag down your credit score significantly. But the good news is that there is a super easy solution to this, and that is using a wonderful tool called AutoPay. You might already use AutoPay for your bills, your mortgage, or maybe your rent, and sometimes lenders will even offer lower interest rates when you set up AutoPay. Now, in this case, that is irrelevant because you are always paying off your card in full, so the interest rate is completely irrelevant to you. But I highly recommend, nonetheless, that you set up AutoPay just in case you forget to pay it off manually, and you always want to set this to pay off the full balance in its entirety automatically at the end of the month. And again, that way it's all going to be taken care of for you, and you don't even have to worry about it, and then you will have perfect payment history, which obviously is very good for your credit score. The fourth mistake is definitely less common, but can cost you a ton of money if you don't know about it, and that would be taking out what's called a cash advance. If you've never heard of this before, basically this is like withdrawing money from an ATM, but instead of withdrawing that with a debit card, which is pulled directly from your bank account, you are withdrawing that money on your credit card, which is technically borrowed money. That might not sound like that big of a deal, but if you were to withdraw, say, $100, then there could easily be a 5% cash advance fee, plus they are also going to charge you 25% interest or more, so please just don't do this. If you need cash, just go to the bank and get cash, or use your debit card to withdraw cash from your bank account at an ATM. Do not take out a cash advance under any circumstance. The fifth mistake can actually be okay if you know what you're doing, which I'll explain in a second, but can be detrimental to your your credit score if you don't know what you're doing, and that would be maxing out your credit card. When I refer to maxing out your card, what I mean by this is, say you have a $5,000 credit limit, meaning you are able to spend up to $5,000 on that particular credit card. Well, if you max out that card, then that means that you're spending all $5,000 of the available $5,000, meaning you max it out and can't spend any more money on that particular product. Now, this sounds really bad and scary, but I'll actually be the first to admit that I very frequently max out my credit cards on a regular basis, and it's actually not bad for my credit score and is actually really good for my credit score. One of the factors that makes up your credit score in a pretty significant way is what's called your credit utilization, which is essentially a percentage of the total available credit that you use. So if you had a total credit limit of $10,000 and you spent $1,000 on that card, then that would show up on your statement as you utilizing 10% of your credit, or a 10% credit utilization rate. However, if you had spent the full $10,000 of your $10,000 in available credit, then your utilization rate would be 100%, which is horrible for your credit score. So keep that in mind, but the reason that I say that I frequently have maxed out my credit cards is because, as I've talked about in previous videos, I always pay off my credit cards before my statement arrives, meaning I'm able to take advantage of all of the credit that is available to me without having a really high credit utilization, which would be damaging to my credit score. So I might spend $5,000 on a credit card that has a $5,000 limit, but if I pay that amount off before the statement arrives and is processed, then it will actually show up as me spending nothing, which would mean my utilization is zero and would be really good for my credit score. Number 6 is a mistake that I still make to this day, and that would be applying for too many credit cards in a short period of time. Look, you're talking to the guy who literally has a binder to organize all of his credit and debit card products, and while I realize that as someone who reviews financial products for a living, I kind of get a free pass on that, but I absolutely fall into this trap way too often of opening too many credit cards in a short period of time, which, you guessed it, is bad for your credit score. And the reason for that is usually when you take out any line of credit, whether that's a mortgage, an auto loan, or a credit card, a hard inquiry is going to show up on your credit report, which basically just means that the lender pulled your credit report to see if you were eligible for that particular product or loan, and that shows up as a hard inquiry on your credit report for up to 2 years, and again, can pull down your credit score as a result. You'll sometimes hear people refer to this as a hard pull or a soft pull, and again, that just depends on what product you are applying for, but if you go and apply for, say, 5 different credit cards in a week, then you're probably going to have 5 hard inquiries on your report in a very short period of time, and that is not a good look. So, in my opinion, you want to at least give it 6 months between applying for different credit cards, and some companies like Chase even have stuff like the 524 rule, which basically says that if you've applied for 5 or more credit cards in the past 24 months or 2 years, then they will automatically deny any new application for any Chase credit card product. So if you only have 1 credit card, then this is probably not that big of a deal, but just something that I did want to throw onto this list if you are like me and you have many different credit cards. The 7th mistake is far too often overlooked, but that would be closing a line of credit, and specifically an old line of credit. Another major category that makes up your credit score is the average age of your credit and the total lines of credit that you currently have. So by closing an old credit card, you were actually hurting your score in a number of different ways, because that is actually going to reduce the average age of your credit, which is bad. It reduces the total lines of credit that you have, which is bad, and it reduces the total credit available to you, which, you guessed it, is bad. Again, I literally have a binder of different credit and debit card products that I have reviewed here on the channel, yet I only carry 2 credit cards on the back of my phone with me every single day, and even if I never intend on using a credit card again in the future, assuming that it doesn't have some kind of ridiculous annual fee, then trust me, you are way better off just leaving that account open and allowing it to boost your total available credit and the total lines of credit that you have, as well as increasing the average age of your credit. We have got 3 mistakes left, including the biggest mistake that I definitely still make myself, but number 8 would be not understanding the fees that are associated with your credit card. This one isn't super common, and the interest on your card does fall under this category, but again, if you listen to the earlier tips and you're paying off your card in full, on time, every time, without fail, then the interest rate should be completely irrelevant. However, a lot of cards will still charge you fees for different things like a cash advance or a late payment. Some obviously have an annual fee, fee, and others might have an international transaction fee, for example. And if you know about these fees, then you will know how to avoid them. So again, it's just important to understand what fees apply to your credit card so that you don't fall into those traps. Number 9 is more for those credit card nerds like myself, but also for anyone who might only have 1 or 2 credit cards, and that would be using the wrong credit card for certain purchases. Now, this one isn't going to be detrimental to your credit score or anything like that. However, as you all know, different credit cards might offer different rewards and different bonuses in certain spending categories, so it is really important that you use the best product for each spending category, because otherwise you could easily be missing out on thousands of dollars of cash back and other rewards. Some products might offer 5% back on groceries, and others might offer 5% at gas stations, and really the combinations here are limitless, and I'm not going to go through all of them. But if you do have a lot of credit cards like me, or you just want to ensure that you are using the best credit card for your financial spending, then really I would recommend that you check out a product called Max Rewards, who is not sponsoring this video, but I do always like to mention it because it essentially tracks all of your different credit cards and will literally tell you which one you should use at certain retail locations in order to maximize the benefit that you get. And again, you don't have to worry about any of it because it does it all for you. Max Rewards is free, but if you do want to get a month of their premium service called Max Rewards Gold for completely free, then I will leave my link down in the description below, and you'll also help support my channel, which I really appreciate. Alright, but coming in at number 10, which is by far the most common mistake that people make with their credit cards, myself included, and is far too often forgotten, would be overbuying. I am so guilty of this myself, and it is definitely something that I have been working on a lot recently. And you might be saying to yourself right now that you don't overbuy and you don't spend unnecessarily just because you have a credit card, but you'd be surprised the number of studies and research that has been done on this very topic. I know for me, when I get a new credit card, I always want to hit that minimum spending requirement in order to get the sign-up bonus, and I have absolutely had to stop myself on multiple occasions from making a purchase and really think through whether or not I would make that purchase was I not trying to hit that sign-up bonus. Because obviously buying something that you don't really need and otherwise wouldn't purchase just to get a sign-up bonus on a credit card is absolutely ridiculous and is a horrible idea. Again though, no worries, because I'm definitely guilty of that mistake and several others on this list myself, so I'd love to know down in the comment section which of these mistakes and traps you fall into yourself with your credit cards and spending habits. As always, if you did get value out of this content and you want to help support me, the easiest way to do that is actually by checking out some of my favorite financial tools down in the description below, including one offer from the Point Cashback debit card that will currently give you $100 when you open your account and make your first purchase, so definitely check that out using the link down below. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future, and of course, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it so much. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.